These are the words of the covenant which the Lord commanded Moses to make with the children of Israel in the land of Moab, besides the covenant which he made with them in Horeb. Now Moses called all Israel and said to them, Pau tu, you have seen all that the Lord did before your eyes in the land of Egypt, to Pharaoh and to all his servants and to all his land, the great trials which your eyes have seen, the signs and those great wonders. Yet the Lord has not given you a heart to perceive, and eyes to see, and ears to hear, to this very day. And I have led you 40 years in the wilderness. Your clothes have not worn out on you, and your sandals have not worn out on your feet. You have not eaten bread, nor have you drunk wine or similar drink, that you may know that I am the Lord your God. All of you stand today before the Lord your God, your leaders and your tribes and your elders, and your officers, all the men of Israel, your little ones and your wives, also the stranger who is in your camp. From the one who cuts your wood to the one who draws your water, that you may enter into covenant with the Lord your God, and into his oath, which the Lord your God makes with you today, that he may establish you today as a people for himself, and that he may be God to you, just as he has spoken to you, and just as he has sworn to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I make this covenant and this oath not with you alone, but with him who stands here with us today before the Lord our God, as well as with him who is not here with us today. For you know that we dwelt in the land of Egypt, and that we came through the nations which you passed by, and you saw their abominations and their idols which were among them, wood and stone and silver and gold, so that there may not be among you man or woman or family or tribe, whose heart turns away today from the Lord our God, to go and serve the gods of these nations, and that there may not be among you a root bearing bitterness or wormwood. And it happened, when he hears the words of this curse, that he bless himself in his heart, saying, I shall have peace, even though I follow the dictates of my heart, as though the drunkard could be included with the sober. The Lord would not spare him, for then the anger of the Lord and his jealousy would burn against that man, and every curse that is written in this book would settle on him. And the Lord would blot out his name from under heaven, and the Lord would separate him from all the tribes of Israel for adversity, according to all the curses of the covenant that are written in this book of the law, so that the coming generation of your children who rise up after you, and the foreigner who comes from a far land, would say, when they see the plagues of that land, and the sicknesses which the Lord has laid on it, the whole land is brimstone, salt, and burning. It is not sown, nor does it bear, nor does any grass grow there, like the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah, Admah, and Zeboim, which the Lord overthrew in his anger and in his wrath. All nations would say, why has the Lord done so to this land? What does the heat of this great anger mean? Then people would say, because they have forsaken the covenant of the Lord God of their fathers, which he made with them when he brought them out of the land of Egypt. For they went and served other gods and worshipped them, gods that they did not know and that he had not given to them. Then the anger of the Lord was aroused against this land, to bring on it every curse that is written in this book. And the Lord uprooted them from their land in anger, in wrath and in great indignation, and cast them into another land as it is this day. The secret things belong to the Lord our God, but those things which are revealed belong to us and to our children forever, that we may do all the words of this law.
When all these blessings and curses I have set before you come on you, and you take them to heart wherever the Lord your God disperses you among the nations, and when you and your children return to the Lord your God and obey him, with all your heart and with all your soul according to everything I command you today, then the Lord your God will restore your fortunes and have compassion on you, and gather you again from all the nations where he scattered you, even if you have been banished to the most distant land under the heavens. From there the Lord your God will gather you and bring you back. He will bring you to the land that belonged to your ancestors, and you will take possession of it. He will make you more prosperous and numerous than your ancestors. The Lord your God will circumcise your hearts and the hearts of your descendants, so that you may love him with all your heart and with all your soul, and live. The Lord your God will put all these curses on your enemies who hate and persecute you. You will again obey the Lord and follow all his commands I am giving you today. Then the Lord your God will make you most prosperous in all the work of your hands and in the fruit of your womb, the young of your livestock and the crops of your land. The Lord will again delight in you and make you prosperous, just as he delighted in your ancestors, if you obey the Lord your God and keep his commands and decrees that are written in this book of the law, and turn to the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. For this command which I am giving you today is not too wondrous or remote for you. It is not in the heavens that you should say, "Who will go up to the heavens to get it for us and tell us of it, that we may do it?" Nor is it across the sea that you should say, "Who will cross the sea to get it for us and tell us of it, that we may do it?" But the word is very near you. It is in your mouth and in your heart, so that you can do it. See, I have today set before you life and good, death and evil. If you obey the commandments of the Lord your God, which I am giving you today, loving the Lord your God and walking in his ways, and keeping his commandments, statutes, and ordinances, you will live and grow numerous, and the Lord your God will bless you in the land you are entering to possess. If, however, your heart turns away and you do not obey, but are led astray and bow down to other gods and serve them, I tell you today that you will certainly perish. You will not have a long life on the land which you are crossing the Jordan to enter and possess. I call heaven and earth today to witness against you. I have set before you life and death, the blessing and the curse. Choose life then, that you and your descendants may live, by loving the Lord your God, obeying his voice, and holding fast to him, for that will mean life for you, a long life for you to live on the land which the Lord swore to your ancestors, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give to them. In the grand tapestry of human history, moments of transition are woven with threads of sorrow and hope. Today, we revisit one such pivotal moment on the very edge of the Promised Land, where a chapter was closing and a new one was about to begin. Before the entire assembly of Israel, a leader who had guided them through desert and deliverance prepared to give his final address. Moses, his hair and beard as white as the mountain snows of his homeland, stood before his people. His voice, though weathered by 120 years, carried the weight of divine authority as he spoke. He declared that his time as their leader was at an end. The Lord had decreed that he would not cross the Jordan River with them, and his strength no longer permitted him to lead them in their comings and goings. The era of Moses was drawing to a solemn close, but the journey of Israel was far from over. With the eyes of all Israel upon him, Moses called forth his trusted commander Joshua. In this public and sacred act, he laid his hands upon Joshua's head, formally commissioning him as the new leader of the nation. As he did, a divine light seemed to emanate from the heavens, and the voice of God himself charged Joshua to be strong and of good courage. It was a promise that God would go with him, never to leave him or forsake him. Joshua, the determined warrior, now bore the mantle of leadership, ready to guide his people into their inheritance. Having secured the future of Israel's leadership, Moses turned to the preservation of its soul. He took up a scroll and a stylus, and with careful strokes he inscribed the divine law that had been given to him on Mount Sinai. This was not merely a set of rules, but the very heart of the covenant between God and his people. It was a guide for life, a blueprint for a holy nation, and a testament to the promises they were called to uphold. Moses then entrusted this sacred text to the Levitical priests, the designated guardians of Israel's spiritual heritage. He commanded them to carry this scroll of the law with the Ark of the Covenant, the symbol of God's holy presence among them. As the priests lifted the ark, its golden form gleaming in the sun, it now traveled with the written word, a constant reminder of the covenant that bound them to the Almighty and to one another. To ensure this covenant would never be forgotten, Moses issued a final, crucial command. He instructed that every 7 years, during the Festival of Tabernacles, the law was to be read aloud in its entirety. This was not a ceremony for the elders or the priests alone. It was for every man, woman, child, and even the foreigners living among them. They were all to gather, to listen, and to learn, so that the fear of the Lord and the knowledge of his ways would pass from one generation to the next. Finally, in a moment of prophetic clarity, God revealed to Moses the future of the nation he so loved. He foretold that after they had settled in the land of milk and honey, they would inevitably turn away and break the covenant. To serve as a perpetual reminder of their vows, God instructed Moses to write a song of witness that would stand against them in the days of their unfaithfulness. After composing this song, Moses completed writing the words of the law, commanding that the scroll be placed beside the Ark of the Covenant as an enduring testimony for all time. Thus, with his final duties fulfilled, the servant of God prepared for his departure, leaving behind a new leader, a written law, and a song of witness to guide the people he had led for 40 years. And so, the stage was set for a new chapter in Israel's history. Join us next time as we explore the continuing saga of faith and destiny.